What's up, you guys? I'm here with a new video today, and I'm here to bring you guys the fourth installment of In the Mind of a Yu-Gi-Oh player. I'm going to be winding down with this series just for myself. I want to start bringing the series to different players with different mindsets, different play styles, different decks that they run, and I really want to hear their opinions. I also want to start traveling again, and I want to get this series out to more of the quote unquote pro players. Patrick Hoban's already agreed to do one with me when I see him, so that'll definitely be an interesting one to do. Um, but I want to talk today about one of the main things that decks uh, go through in Yu-Gi-Oh, just depending on the format or just depending on how they're constructed, and that's that all decks have weaknesses. Every deck, regardless of how it's built, has a weakness. It can lose to a floodgate card, it can lose to itself, it can lose to inconsistency, etc., etc. But the point of today's video is you need to being able to recognize your deck's weakness and being able to capitalize on that to improve your deck so that it doesn't fall victim to those weaknesses. So, however that may be. So, there's multiple ways you can do that. One of the main ways you can do that is that you can go. We'll use Satellarknights as an example. The deck's really cool. The deck, it has a Stratos, it has a Wolf Bark, it has an Infinity Barrier. The deck's weakness, though, it comes in multiple forms. It comes in the form of the monsters are not that strong. Deneb is only 1500, Altair is only 1700, Ulikai is only 1800. Vega and Alsam, they're weak too. I think Vega's 1200, Alsam's 1400, I want to say. Now, people may say 1800 is not weak, 1700 is not weak. It depends. It depends on what you're playing against. By themselves, they can do a decent amount of damage, especially Ulikai. Ulikai being 18 is huge because it's the strongest Satellar Knight by itself before you XYZ, so that's really beneficial. But the other monsters do fall to that problem. So Deneb, if you summon a Deneb, you search an Altair. If you have no back row, you're pretty sure about 85% of the time, sure, you're going to lose that Deneb. And the opponent's going to know you have Altair, so they're going to set up to be able to counter the Altair play, which will bring back the Deneb. So one of the problems with that deck is that it has weak monsters. But if you guys have noticed with decks like that, decks like Geargia, decks that have weak monsters, weak attacking monsters, they capitalize by doing the oldest trick in the game, and that is by running a plethora of traps. Most of these decks are running a minimum of 12 to 15 to 20 traps. Some of these decks literally run 50% of their deck to be traps. They do that so that their deck can do what it needs to do, and that's survive and outgrind you. A lot of grind games come down to the fact that you have monsters that are floaters, you have monsters that get a plus every time they're summoned. But it's mostly the back row. It's trap cards like Call of the Haunted, it's trap cards like Breakthrough Skill, trap cards like Fiendish Chain. Just basic trap cards like Dimensional Prison, Vanity's Emptiness. All these trap cards are the reason why a lot of these decks survive and do so well is that they're able to grind through some of like the toughest plays that happen to them. So a weak deck can capitalize on things by filling the deck with a bunch of traps. Now, that is one strategy, but also with that strategy comes another weakness. The weakness of being, what if you draw all back row and no monsters? What if your opponent just, clears all your back row and then you have no monsters? What do you do? How do you battle back? How do you ever touch your opponent's life points is another thing. Is when you're not drawing monsters, you're not getting their life points. You may be clearing their board and getting rid of their monsters, but if they have more monsters than you do, they're going to keep drawing monsters and eventually they're going to get through your back row. Let's face it, cards like Vanity's Emptiness, as powerful as they are, they do fall victim to one thing, and that's that they cannot stop an attack. If your opponent it just normal summons a monster, you have no monsters or anything, and you don't have anything to really stop them, like a battle stopper, you're going to take damage. And several attacks from a low attacking monster can end the game. So that's one thing is that choosing your traps is really, really important. You need to have reactive traps, traps that not only prevent your opponent from doing what they want to do, but also prevent you from taking damage, prevent you from falling too far behind in the game. So while a lot of decks can utilize that, they can also lose to the fact that they don't draw monsters and all they draw is back row, and sometimes back row is not enough. Other decks have weaknesses where they rely too much on special summoning, and a floodgate card like Vanity's Emptiness would flat out lock them out. So that can be a problem. A perfect example would be like dragons. Dragons have a very hard time against Vanity's Emptiness if they do not main deck Mystical Space Typhoon or multiple outs to the card. Very hard for dragons to play. They do have Card Trooper, they do have Curry Bandit, but sometimes it's just not enough. So those decks can really, really have a hard time against a floodgate like Vanity's Emptiness, especially with the fact that the card's being main deck now in 2 and 3 in most decks. So that is one thing, is that if your deck is too special summon reliant, especially in this format, and you know Vanity's Emptiness is in almost every main deck, you need to modify your deck to be able to answer emptiness if it is chained to you starting to special summon. So that's another thing, is sometimes your deck will lose to just a straight up floodgate. Mermails have a hard time with Macrocosmos, Dimensional Fissure, Soul Drain, etc., etc. A lot of those floodgates are what lock people out. Kaiser Coliseum being another floodgate. When your deck relies on having more than one monster on the field and you're locked under a Yamato Kaiser with back row and hares and turtles and cranes floating everywhere, it can be very hard to play the game because you're not able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! You're only be able to sit there and watch your opponent 1v1 you every turn. So that can be another problem. I could go on and on, you guys. Like, there's many decks have many problems. Decks can auto lose, like I've talked about, to a single card, and that can be a reason why you don't want to play the deck. Satellarknights could lose automatically to Light Imprisoning Mirror. Chevals can have a hard time against Shadow Imprisoning Mirror. Burning Abyss can lose to Shadow Imprisoning Mirror, and all these decks have a problem with, except Chevals have a problem with Flying Sea. Even though Burning Abyss contribute for Ryza or other monarchs, other than crashing with the Flying Sea and taking a crap ton of damage, since it's only 700, they would have to find another way around that. So a lot of decks' biggest problem is that they lose to floodgates, and they lose to single cards, and they lose sometimes to themselves. Sometimes your deck will brick. It happens. Decks like Lightsworn, decks like Boojins, all these decks at one time or another will brick. You will draw an unplayable hand, and you will not be able to play Yu-Gi-Oh! It happens, but it's normal. But in the comments below, I want you guys to discuss what you feel your weakness of your deck is and how you have improved that weakness. What have you done to your deck to make it playable even with its biggest weakness? Like me, if you play Satellarknights, you're playing a bunch of back rows so that you can counteract your opponent's floodgate cards. I'm also trying artifacts. If you guys want to see a Satellarknight artifact profile, let me know in the comments below. I really like that deck. I'm actually liking it a lot more than standard Satellarknights, which is weird because I do like standard Satellarknights. I said that in my profile, but I've been testing with the artifacts and they've just been doing amazing. And I know that they can lead to brick hands, but sometimes your opponent just blind MSTs. Like, it just happens. Like, it's ridiculous. And when they do, it's just lights out because Moral Tech just says no. And I've had times where they hit the Beagle Tech hits the Moral Tech, pop with the Moral Tech, make a Pallades, and you just win. So it's pretty crazy. But anyways, in the comments below, let me know what your guys feel the weakness to your deck is and what you have done to improve it to make it less susceptible to that weakness. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this episode. Let me know if there's anything you guys want to know specifically. I feel that for maybe I'm going to do maybe one or two more videos in this segment for myself. If there's anything you guys want to know, please comment below. Please ask me something you would like to know. Just kind of scramble my brain for something because I'm no pro player, you guys, but I do like to give my opinion on the game. So I would definitely like to give you guys a couple more tips on how I see people building decks and kind of just mess around and see what's in my mind when it comes to playing Yu-Gi-Oh! So yeah, hope you guys enjoyed the video. Thumbs it up. Thank you for watching.